Good morning, everyone. It always takes a moment for the live to look like it's actually working. So if I look like I'm just staring for the first few seconds, that's why. So good morning, everyone. Chag Sameach. I am Rabbi Jenny Greenspan here for Congregation Beth-El for our special Passover edition of our morning Torah talk. Instead of prior to a Shabbat service with a Shabbat Torah portion, we are, of course, on a Pesach. Today is not Shabbat, but it is the first day of Pesach, the first day of Passover. And so I wanted to share a little bit of Torah specific to today, specific to the very start of the holiday of Passover. So the instructions for finding our text to follow along with me are slightly different this morning. If you are on the BEZ613.org website, that's BEZ613.org for the Beth-El website, you'll hover over the worship menu and select the Passover section, and then you'll scroll down and you'll want to select the one that's actually marked as day one Torah and Maftir, and then hold on to this. This will be the Torah reading page that you'll use to follow along with Cantor Melissa in our service later. But I wanted to really focus in on exactly a piece that we're reading today because I have a lot of questions about it. So we'll get into it in just a moment and look at one answer to one question, even though there are always more questions to be had. Questions, of course, being a key piece of our Passover celebration. Hopefully my cat's not too distracting in the background. But before we get started, Chag Sameach, good morning. Welcome to Jim Roth, to Peter Mayer, to Jody Zucker. So good to see everybody each morning and joining for our special Sunday morning edition. So Chag Sameach. So let's dive in. If we scroll down to the first piece of the reading that Ken and Melissa set up for us, it has in it the very episode that leads to my question that I want us to examine this morning, which gets to the very core of why is this holiday called Pesach or called Passover? He said, Moses then summoned all of the elders of Israel and said to them, Go pick out lambs for your families and slaughter the Passover offering. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and apply some of the blood that is in the basin to the lintel of the two doorposts. None of you should go outside of the door of your house until morning. For then Adonai will go outside. When Adonai goes through to smite the Egyptians, God will see the blood on the lintel and the doorpost, and God will pass over the door and not let the destroyer enter and smite your home. That verse in the Hebrew, Ve'avar Adonai lingof et Mitzrayim, ve'ra'a et hadam al hamashkof ve'al shtei hamezuzot ufpasach. Pesach, hear that right there. Adonai al hapetach ve'lo yiten mashchit lavo el batechem lingof. When God goes through to smite the Egyptians, will see the blood on your two doorposts, and God will pass over your door. You may have also heard the word mezuzot, so the doorpost and the mezuzot, the casing for the scroll which contains Shema that we use today, is of course called a mezuzah, meaning doorpost. And this is also a piece of where that custom comes from. But I wanted to look at one thing in particular is why? This is the 10th plague, and this is the Israelites preparing for the 10th plague. They're using a lamb offering, which will become a piece of biblical practice for Pesach, a biblical piece for Passover. And each year, while the temple stands, the Israelites will continue to sacrifice a lamb every year in commemoration of this moment, right before the 10th plague. During the 10th plague happening, as God is going through and killing the firstborn children of each of the Egyptian households, we see God needing a marker on their door. And that's where my question comes in. Why does God need a marker on the door of the Israelite homes? For all of the previous 9 plagues, God didn't ask the Israelites to do anything. In fact, in the just one prior plague, in the plague of darkness, the Israelites it says, had light in their homes, while the Egyptians had such consuming darkness that it was a physical, palpable darkness. that prevented them even from being able to walk, to stand, to sit down. One midrash says if they were standing when the darkness occurred, they froze in place and stood for 3 days. If they were sitting, they could not get up for 3 days. That darkness was incredibly palpable to the Egyptians, and the Israelite homes had light through no effort on the Israelites' part. So why on this plague, on this final plague, on the 10th plague, did the Israelites have to do something? Why couldn't God just know which of those homes were Israelite homes? God seemed to one plague ago. Light in the Israelites' homes, no light in the Egyptian homes. Why do they need to mark it now? So the Netivot Shalom, he's one of those rabbis who's often known more by the title of his greatest work than his own name, but the Netivot Shalom, or Rabbi Shalom Noach Berezovsky, who lived from 1911 to 2000, was a recent Hasidic rabbi. He said, the reason that the Israelites had to do something for this plague was not for God's sake. God, of course, did know which houses were Israelites and which houses were Egyptian. Again, God had just done it during the plague of darkness. But rather, this preparation was for the sake of the Israelites themselves. This final plague was going to be the moment when the Israelites were finally going to be freed, and they had to prepare for it. They had to get ready. They had to prove that they wanted it, even if they didn't know what was coming, even if they didn't really know what freedom and going out into the desert and worshiping Adonai, our God, would look like. They know that that was what they were supposed to do, but they had to actually be ready to do it. They had to put in the work to prove to God that they wanted it. And if they hadn't, they would have been considered part of the Egyptians and have assimilated into the Egyptians. And each of the Israelite homes that wanted it had to do this preparation, even if they were terrified the whole time and had no idea what would really happen. They had to find the strength to try anyway and to trust that whatever was coming was going to be better than what they had. So in a sense, they had to build a sense of anticipation, even in circumstances that had always been difficult and brutal and downcast, and they had been enslaved and put under extremely trying circumstances for hundreds of years, for multiple generations. And they had to find it in themselves to build a sense of anticipation by doing this preparation. They had to prepare to celebrate. They had to be ready to rush out with their matzahs. They had to be ready to go and get to the waters and hope that they would part and be ready to sing. And they had to be ready to be okay with the hard pieces too. They had to be ready to be okay with the fact that standing at water's edge, they would still be terrified. But without being forced to prepare for that final plague, they may not have had it in themselves to get ready, to be in the mindset that would allow them to get up, to grab their matzah and walk to the edge of the water. But the preparation and anticipation allowed themselves to drive themselves forward into what was going to be freedom, even if that was an unknown. So the Zohar, the classic Kabbalistic texts, says that the people of Israel on Passover ate two breads when they left Egypt. They ate the matzah, the bread of affliction, and then in the desert, they ate the manna, which comes from heaven. It was called lechem min hashamayim, bread from God, bread from the heavens. I think that there's an interesting interplay between these two kinds of breads. The matzah, they had to make for themselves. They had to prepare it under dire circumstances, and they had to do it in a rush. But they had to do it. They had to take it on for themselves. And then the manna, they had to trust that it would continue to come. One they made, one they received. And I think that our message here is that when we prepare for that final plague, when we prepare for the freedom, we have to be willing to both put in the work and to prepare and to be ready and to start building and fostering a sense of anticipation and expecting joy. And we have to be willing to trust, to know that we're not going to be able to control everything, that whatever it is we prepare for will probably not end up looking exactly as we think it does. I think of when I was planning my wedding, I was told multiple times by previous brides that something will go wrong. Foster the sense of anticipation, and you trust that one thing may not go as you expect it to, at least one thing. And so freedom is finding the way to hold both of those at the same time, to hold the need to prepare, the need to build anticipation, and to put in the work to create the joyful space that you're hoping for. And freedom is the ability to sit back and to trust and to know that whatever is coming will still be good in some way and will still lead to a greater and brighter time to build trust. I think it's a relevant message for us, not only for Passover, as we enter into our week of it, but also for where we are in recovering from the COVID pandemic. We are in a space where we are putting in the work and we are being able to move forward. We don't know exactly when that will be done. And so we both put in the work, we protect one another, we get the vaccines as it's our turns, and we protect one another in that way. And we trust that we can't control every piece of it, but that there is some kind of freedom on the horizon as we continue to receive as well. So I'll say Shabbat Shalom. I hope you have a joyful Pesach ahead of us. I hope you join us on Zoom, not on the live stream this morning. So you'll find the Zoom link on that same Passover page on the Beth-El website. And I hope we will see you again soon, free when we are ready, and enjoying and building up our anticipation as we can for right now. I'll say Shabbat Shalom. I see, not Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach. I'm so used to saying Shabbat Shalom on Torah Talks. So it goes. Chag Sameach, and welcome. I see I got Alex Binder and Eric Hogan and Julia Whitehead have also joined. So Chag Sameach. So good to see those of you who joined me 2 days in a row this week. And Chag Sameach, and I hope that I'll see you again on our Zoom in just a few minutes. You'll go over to BEZ 613, go to Worship and Passover, and you'll find the link there, or it's in the congregational email that was sent out on Friday. I'll see you soon. Chag Sameach.